Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.
Very welcome along this Friday afternoon or Friday evening. It depends on where you're consuming this. If you're listening to us on the radio and News Talk Fair Play, we're also live across all of our social channels on YouTube, Facebook and on Twitter. Our guest this week is none other than the Kildare legend, Willie McCreery. How are you?
Good, thanks, Gerard.
Thanks for coming in.
No problem. Very welcome.
We might not talk as much about racing as we normally do with our racing guests. We might just talk about our glory days, except this guy's from Galway, so...
Which guy? I don't see any. There's only the two of us here.
Ignore him for the whole show.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be hard to do.
Yeah, it would be hard to do.
Yeah.
He gets the old legendary moniker a bit too much, I think, now.
I
remember 98 being in a Galway victory, to be fair.
You must have been about 5.
I was doing my junior cert. I remember watching the game in the old Canal End, and I remember watching it beside Mairead Meehan, who very sadly passed away very tragically at a young age, would have been from the famous Meehan family, and it was an incredible day, you know, because Galway, I don't know, there was something about that summer where it just seemed that the whole county believed from a very early stage that they could do it. And the Mayo game in Castlebar was the start, but I do remember we were really enjoying the fact that Kildare were 3-1 on leading up to the game, because everyone in Galway was like, we're not 3-1 shots in this now. We were fairly hopeful that just we had the forward.
Shut up, Johnny, I've had enough. Had enough. Yeah. Shut up. No one asked you.
We won it again in 2001, but we haven't done much since either, to be fair. But you were a very athletic player. You got up and down the pitch.
And I have a long reach, Johnny.
Yeah. Used to knee lads in the back as well if needed be. But I actually watched the Micko documentary, and it was kind of emotional seeing the old comrades back together again and talking about the old days. Was it Anthony Rainbow was with you as well?
Anthony Rainbow, yeah. And Carly's son, yeah. No, that was a lovely piece done on Micko. I thought he was, you know, he was still is a living legend. You know what I mean? He did, like, he came to Kildare. We won nothing before or since. He went to Laois. Laois won a Leinster. They've done nothing since. And he got Wicklow. I think it was the only game, first time Wicklow ever won in Croke Park was under Micko. Do you know what I mean? He was a great man. Very much like I've followed his role in training horses. You're either on the team or you're off the team. If you're not 100% fit and not ready to play or not ready to race, you don't want to know about them, because they're on the injury list. They're no good to him.
No good to you, yeah.
No, and the same with him, you know.
I always, I know John Bannon, who refereed the game, quite well from racing, and I do always thank him, because he gave a decision for the goal that was never a free. You know, the more you look at it...
John Finnan overlapped to take the pass off Declan Kerrigan.
Yeah.
And then it went the other way, and they had the overlap then with the goal.
Yeah, it's small margins, you know. History is written by the winners, but you know.
I get Bannon back every time.
Yeah,
because I meet him racing as well. He always asks me for tips, and I give him the little 2 fingers every time. Because I still haven't forgiven. Now it's only 18 years ago, is it? 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Almighty.
You don't give him deliberate losers. That'd be even better.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. The last time I met him, actually, I had a winner in Roscommon. He said, "You never told me about that." And I said, "Oh, sorry, John."
Great days.
Yes.
They were, though. So with the passage of time, what your team did for Kildare football, like, it's been so long since there was that level of excitement or belief around the county, before and since. Like, with the passage of time, it matters less and less that you didn't win the final, I think. You know, you're still
No, it doesn't if you played it. Do you know what I mean? It's the biggest regret I have in life. And, you know, it was no fault of anyone's. I think on the day, I remember the second half, I think Galway knew a lot more about us than we did about them. They had their homework done, more so than we did. They came and rehearsed. They stayed in Kildare 2 weeks before the match, drove around Kildare in the bus, did a full rehearsal. They were just 110%, and we were just that little bit, you know, unprepared. And I'll say that now, and people will probably slate me for it, but...
Too cocky?
I wouldn't say cocky. I'd say just they knew everything about our players. We made a few switches that were silly for one injury. We moved guys around that shouldn't have been playing in those positions.
Did David Dalton not play? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
So Davey was injured, and
then Sauce moved out centre or wing back
to Mark Jaff Allen.
No, to Mark, the young player of the year,
Donlan.
Oh, yes. And like Ken, they put Ken Doyle in corner. And they put Ken Doyle in cornerback. Ken Doyle would have been was crying out for Ken Doyle, because Ken Doyle's a great runner, you know. He played third midfield for his club all his life. Would have been ideal, and Sauce is an out-and-out cornerback, you know.
I'll never forget, I was covering the game. It was my first season as a reporter for FM 104, and I just remember before the game, a Kildare supporter turned around to another Kildare supporter going, "Isn't it great that Sauce gets to start now? He'll get his medal." And I was like, "Oh, Jesus."
Yeah.
Oh,
Did
Jesus,
you believe in the
don't start.
hype in the county? Because it must have been overwhelming as well.
It was, but I mean, you have to get away from that. You can't believe it, because I mean, there's no match ever won, you know, at the start of the game. It's always won at the end. I mean, you can't, even a 1-5 shot in racing, you know, it can the jockey can duck coming out of stalls, or something can happen. Do you know what I mean? So you were saying we were 3-1 on, but I mean, we never believed the hype, because, you know, we were totally driven. I mean, I thought we were a very unified team that year, you know, and it was to keep the hype away from us. Miko was trying to do with closed training sessions and all this, you know, but it was hard to get away from it now. But I mean, I went to work that morning. I was working for Charles O'Brien, assistant trainer. I went to work that morning just to keep the normal thing, keep the routine to itself, you know, and do everything the way we did. We all sat in the same place on the bus. We all sit in the same place in the dressing room, you know, and before you know it, you're trying to repeat your winning formula, which you won the previous game. You know,
you have to spare the way football has gone from the odd time I talk to you about it.
Oh, it's horrible to watch. I mean, when you see, you know, I just love watching a good game of football, and when you're looking at reeling in the years and you look at some of the old games, I mean, they're actually kicking the ball 40, 50 yards, and it's great football. And like, you go and look at a minor game, it's great football in any county, because they're not playing this, you know, let's try and stop the team from winning. Why don't you go out and beat them by outscoring them? You know, but that's, I suppose, naive football now, you know.
How old were you when you made the team?
25.
Okay, because you were late, is it fair to say you were a late bloomer in terms of...
No, well, I kind of, when I was 18, I did the Irish National Stud course, and then I went straight from there to Australia.
Okay.
To work at horses, and then I came back, and then I went to America for 2 years, and then I came back, and then I went to Japan for a year.
Right.
So I wasn't really fully back till I was 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then straight in the team.
Well, a sub for I had boils in my arse now from sitting on the substitutes bench for a long time, and I have a great story there. There was we were on Miko's first term, and I was being called on for about 2 minutes to go, and Laois were beating us in a league game, and Miko turned around, come on, and Dave Malone grabbed my leg. He says, "Stay there," he says. And I said, "Why? If you get up," he says, "and you go on, the tracksuit you're wearing, you won't get to keep it." You know, that's how things were then. You know, you're playing for a tracksuit, you know. It's totally different era compared to
madness.
Now. Yeah.
As in, you'd have to take it off, the sub coming off would get to keep it.
And then you would
he'd disappear.
Yeah,
you'd going, here, that's my tracksuit.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow, that's madness.
Yeah, that's madness. Yeah.
Things changed largely on the back of the racing community, isn't that right? The Kildare Supporters Club was largely set up by
Michael Osborne.
Yeah.
Michael Osborne actually was the reason Sheikh Mohammed has 9 stud farms in Ireland. He got Sheikh Mohammed to invest in Killangan stud first, and then he's 10 subsequent studs in Ireland, so he's probably employing 2,000 people here because of Michael Osborne. He was also the manager of the Irish National Stud at the time, and he founded the Kildare Supporters Club, and he was the man who got Miko Dwyer to come to Kildare.
I mean, of all of those achievements, obviously Miko is the greatest.
Yes, exactly.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, he was a great man, a great politician in racing, you know what I mean?
So I didn't know that you'd had that kind of training, and it was obviously fated that you were going to go into racing. It was like from an early age, you know, you don't enrol in the National Stud course at 18 unless you've been dreaming about it from...
No! I look at my father was a racehorse trainer. My grandfather, mother's side. My mother is Pat Taft's sister, so he was a jockey. And I always thought I was going to be a jockey till I was about 14. Till next minute I just shot up because my brother Tom is only 9 stone. My brother Peter would be only 10.5 stone to be only 5'6", 5'7".
Right. Okay.
You know, so I don't know whether the postman was around or what, but you know, but like I mean, look at. I got my height. My sisters are very tall, so
right.
Like I always loved riding out in that, and you know, I was raging I couldn't be a jockey. I rode a few amateur races, and I remember didn't eat from Thursday to a Sunday to ride in an amateur race as a minor. I played a county minor game that morning, got thrown around like a rag doll, and then I said no. I started eating my burgers.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So you were obviously good at football the whole way along as well, but
yeah, I was an athlete. I did a lot of running under 10. I have an All-Ireland, under 10 All-Ireland community games.
Right.
200 metres, yeah. So,
Okay.
No, I loved running. I found running very easy. It was that round thing got in the way a bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I think you're being a bit too humble there. That's the joy of being a Gaelic footballer, is that you can do it. It's not a professional thing. You didn't have to pick between racing and playing Gaelic football. You could actually do both happily.
Yeah, because all the games are on a Sunday. You train on the evening, so it never interfered with work.
Yeah.
You know, usually if I was drafted onto work on a Sunday evening, I'd just give someone a few quid to work for me on the Sunday evening, and, got away for all the games, yeah.
Right. Yeah. When did you get good at training?
Pardon?
When did you get good at training?
When did I start training?
No, when did you get good at it?
Oh, not yet. Still working on it, yeah. No, look, I kind of fell into it. I was running the stud farm, and the people who owned the stud farm asked me to train a few horses privately, and that's what I did. And then
when was that? That's kind of...
That's 8 years ago.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and then we had a parting of ways, so I moved on to the Curragh and rented a little yard in the Curragh, and started off, and I invested 20 grand in myself.
Okay. And
I said, that's what I said to Amanda, my wife, and we said, look,
we'll go for it.
Yeah, we'll go for it, 20 grand, and if it doesn't work, we won't put any more money into it, because I see a lot of trainers get themselves in the red because they can't look after their books, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? You have to run it as a business.
How lucky are you to be at the Curragh?
I think if you can't train the Curragh, you can't train anywhere. I mean, we have every facility. We've about 8,000 to 10,000 acres of grassland. We have 5 different woodchip gallops. We have a sand gallop that everyone comes and uses. Willie Mullins comes and uses. Gordon Elliott comes and uses. Jessica Harrington comes and uses. They use all our facilities in the Curragh, and still they all train off it. Lots of people said they wouldn't train on the Curragh, but I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful facility, and it's actually, at the moment, there's a few yards getting run down, and you'd love to see more investment onto the Curragh, you know?
It's probably that, I suppose, some people are afraid to go into the game as well as trainers now, young trainers, to take over them older yards, because it's tough.
It is tough, but I mean, it's you can't buy a yard. To build a gallop would cost you fortunes. It costs about 200,000, or about 20,000 a furlong. You know what I mean? So you put in a furlong gallop, you're fair in debt before you even have a runner. And gallops take about 4 to 6 months to bed in. You'll get a lot of injuries if you go working them, because just they're loose, and they have to be watered properly and the whole lot. And like, our gallops in the Curragh are fantastic. Like, any guy can literally, well, you have to do your trainer's course, which is a 2-week course, and you have to have an assistant trainer course before that, so not any guy can start. But relatively speaking, it's a lot easier to start on the Curragh when you're just renting a yard, and your initial outlay isn't as much as a private yard.
It's kind of a startup business then, 8 years ago, when you're like, your seed capital is your 20 grand, and you're deciding that, okay, we're going to stop doing everything we've been doing up to now, and we're going to go. That's a big moment in anybody's life.
Well, I had 12 horses. I started with 12 horses. 8 were my own.
Right.
So, and I bought a few yearlings, and I actually started a racing club, and I got lads to invest, and it was an all-in share. I think it was 4,500 for a share, and there was no other costs after that. And 2 of the horses in that, 1 won 6 races and 1 won 2 races we sold to Hong Kong. So those guys were in with me for 4 years and never paid another penny after that. Nice. on those horses. And then I sold the other horses, and I had 17 winners my first year. Wow. And I think I had 6 or 7 47 to 65 rated winners that year, because that's what the horses you have. Like, I mean,
what does that mean? Just explain that.
It's a lower grade handicap. Okay. It's the lowest grade handicap in Ireland on the flat.
Not easily won, though.
No, they're the most competitive, because
everybody has those horses.
Everybody has those horses, yeah. Right. So you have to line them up and place them properly and try and win your races, and let the owners have the few quid on if you can.
So bring us back then, right? You've made the decision, and it's a big risk. You're going to dedicate your life to this for the next while. You don't know how it's going to go, but the first time you have a winner, what's that like?
Oh, you're ecstatic. The first winner was a filly called Toasted Special, my very first filly training, and Willie Supple rode her in Cork. And Jimmy Barry Murphy met me before the race, and he says, hold your run here. And I says, I tell you, she's 16 to 1, but I think she'll run well. And she won at 16 to 1. That was my first winner. And then my first winner for my wife was a point-to-point winner called Ionosphere. And after that, then you just, you try and get as many as you can. My first winner yesterday was my first winner for Belinda Strudwick from Ballygallen Stud. That was my first winner for them yesterday, and they've sent 4 horses to me to start of the year. So, right. It's a new owner, and you want to get winners for them as well. Like every owner, it's vital to try and every horse has to pay for itself. If it's no good, out of the place.
How do you, like, so if you were a football manager, I'd ask you now, what's your style of play? How do you want your set to, so like, what's your philosophy? How do you set your team up?
I have to be, I don't have the numbers the big trainers have. I'd have, in full training, I'd have probably 50 horses.
Right.
So I have to line them up that they're all ready to play for me. And if they can't make the A team, and they're only going to make the B team, we have to run them in races so as to get the best out of them.
So it's as much you've got to train the horses to be absolutely ready for when the opportunity arises, but then you've got to pick the right opportunities as well.
Exactly.
So the strategy isn't just to get them fit and well. The strategy is finding the right opportunity for them.
The first strategy is I call myself a conditioner. I condition horses hard enough that when they run, the race doesn't take much out of them. Do you know what I mean?
Miko style.
Yes. It'd be like you asking you to run a marathon tomorrow.
Not going to happen.
Obviously not going to happen. So, if I get you fit enough to run a marathon, you should come out of that marathon and be able to run one in another month, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But in a horse, like, you want them to be able to run, and the race doesn't take much out of them. So they go home, they eat their dinner, they think it's not a bad, they didn't get a fright.
Yeah.
They finished well, they didn't go over their barrier. Say some horses, their barrier might be 5-6 furlongs, or it might be 7 furlongs, or a staying horse might be 1 and 2 1.5 miles. But if you go further than a horse, if you ask, a horse will die for you. And there's no, like horses do, unfortunately die, their heart erupts from races, but a horse will die for you. And if you ask him to do too much when he's not able to, you're asking the wrong question,
So we've obviously been talking about this a good bit on the show. Like, certain horses obviously have very specific breeding. You have a fair idea they're going to be a stamina horse or they're going to be a speed horse. Are there still horses that you find, though, that they hit 2, 2.5, 3, that you're like, actually, this horse, despite the breeding, this horse is performing not the same way that you would expect?
Usually they surprise you negatively. Oftentimes you can go, okay, there's more stamina here, and why is there more stamina here? And you can go into the second dam, and you'll see there's a lot of stamina there.
Okay.
Usually the slow ones are slower.
You'll find a reason somewhere for it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of stallions will upgrade most mares, but then there's a lot of stallions will degrade most mares as well. So, like Galileo, for example, is probably the best stallion in the world because mentally, those horses, they don't bother. Racing doesn't bother them. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like a soccer player going out to a match. Some soccer players to be in the dressing room when they be wired, and they go out and they get 2 yellow cards and sent off just because their heads are fried. They're just so excited about getting out. Whereas if he was a horse, you might put a hood in him, and just get him to chill out a little bit.
We were talking to Donica about that last week. Just the Galileo horses, obviously they're good, but they're very battle hard and they want to race, and they're straightforward. That's the main thing. If you have a stallion who's getting a lot of horses that are quirky or that basically have mental issues, it's going to be a massive downer on them. And Galileo, it's just incredible consistency of running ability. He
is now, and I don't have many, but I hear them saying it. But like I have a few Invincible Spirits, and he injects a lot of speed into them. And they're a different type of horse. Physically, Invincible Spirits, their front legs will be closer to their hind legs because they have more power. They'll be like a turbo car as against a truck. Do you know what I mean? They inject a lot of power into horses. And that's where you're trying to combine your mare. When you're going looking to buy a horse, you're trying to... Well, personally, I try and buy a fast horse because I'm trying to keep away from the regally bred ones of Aidan O'Brien and such.
That's interesting, because you'll have tried to avoid Galileo then.
Yeah. Because, it's no point taking on him because I don't...
Explain that, sorry. So you're looking for...
Aidan Galileo is so all in empowering, I suppose, from his perspective. Galileo horses generally will run over sort of 10 furlong medium trip. A lot of them stay further. The odd one would be very good at 6 furlongs. But by and large, they're middle distance horses. So Willie would go for a fast horse. Aidan O'Brien wouldn't have many very good sprinters in general. At least compared to the... Like, you see the maidens and you're like... You're previewing a maiden and he's like 4 Galileos in the race, and then you go to the dam side and they're incredibly well bred again, and one of them is 33 to 1, and you're just like, what one trainer would do to have the outsider of the 4, and it's just every race it's like they'll keep going back to Galileo as well with the same dam. So Willie would obviously try to, just if you can get a fast horse, at least you're probably less likely you'll be dealing with an Aidan O'Brien trained horse that isn't actually by Galileo.
And in actual fact, they're trying now they're bought Scott Daddy.
Yeah.
They've really heavily invested in Scott Daddy, the Coomore people. They tried to inject speed into these mares that are going to have so many Galileo
So they
progeny.
can compete on the sprinters as well.
Yeah, well, like, I mean...
If so many Galileo bred mares, they can't go to Galileo,
Yeah.
they need another stallion.
Yeah.
You know, and...
to freshen their blood, you see.
yeah. And then Scat Daddy's had No Nay Never, who's had, we'll say, 10 sovereigns, so they look like they're in a good place at the moment.
And he's a totally outcross,
Yeah.
which means he won't be like a farmer has the bull. He has to change the bull every few years, or the bull is starting to mate with the calves,
ring,
which are his daughters. So he has to get rid of them, and the same thing with the horses. You know.
So your background was in stud farming.
My father was a trainer, but I knew I wasn't going to be a jockey, so he always told me not to go training. So I went into the stud end. Yeah.
Which so we were talking about this last week. If you're a vet, it helps to be a trainer because obviously you kind of understand the physiology of the horse a little bit different. It must help as well if you've got a stud background. You've obviously been immersed in bloodlines and the minding and the care of horses.
Well, yeah, and I've dealt with the care from basically a pregnancy being that size, being conceived, sending a mare off to being conceived to foaling mares. One year we foaled 120 mares on our farm, and then I just raised all them, and you can see the difference in I like to buy, when I'm buying a horse, I'll buy off certain stud farms because I know they have really good grass. I mean, when you're looking at a horse, he's eating particles of grass all day long, and that's his nutrients, and that's what builds them up and makes them strong. It's not the feed that we give them in one scoop.
Yeah.
You're only supplementing.
How do you know that then, or how do you know what's...
Well, I know what's farms not to buy off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of,
Is it the land or what?
Yeah, the land.
Just what part of the country it is, or?
Kildare would be great.
Yeah.
Great land. It's because it's limestone.
Yeah.
And it's an Elton series land, and you'll see it on the thing, and then you'll see it on a map of Kildare, and then you'll look at it and you'll see all the stud farms are based, and like up around Maynooth, Midler, and all those. There's a lot of stud farms up around there. It's wonderful land. Before Sheikh Mohammed would buy a farm, they'd go and look and see the limestone down around Tipperary. Another vast amount of limestone down there. So it's just, and you'll see where they raise good cattle and good trees. There's always good land. Like, you never see a good oak in a bog,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this stuff.
No, yeah. No, but it's like you.
When did you realise that though? Like, when did you realise that, like, when you were working on a stud farm in your early 20s, you're like, hang on a second, I see all these horses are really healthy. I see the horses over there, not quite as good as these horses. I'm putting it down to the following characteristics.
Overproduction. Horses being overproduced in a paddock. Too many horses in one paddock, and there's basically no grass for them. You can see that. When you look at the big farms, they have nearly one horse to an acre.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's what or one horse to 10 acres. Sorry, that's what they're looking for in their routine. For example, the dairymen will have 21 paddocks for grazing the cows. So every 21 days they'll move the cows around, so the grass is coming back behind them. But the horses, you don't do that, because if you actually move horses around, they get used to. If you let a horse loose in the field, he'll gallop around the field and go to the four extremities of the field to know his surrounds, and then he's happy, and then he'll relax in that field. But if you move him every day, he's going to gallop every bloody day, and he's not going to put on condition, and he's more chance of hurting himself. Like, you want a horse to be a horse. And like, a horse in nature would roam 20 miles a day, and he might grab a bit of gorse off a bit of furze bush here, go off and eat some Timothy grass 5 mile away, and he'll go and source all these. But when you put them into one paddock, you're refining where they can go. So you've got to make sure they're getting all these supplements daily, and that's why you're feeding them basically feed as well. Do you know what I mean?
You obviously made the right choice. It feels like you definitely made the right choice in becoming a trainer.
Oh yeah, I love it. You know what I mean? It's I love now. For example, our first yearling just came into the yard the other day, because the season's nearly over. I've them all being farmed out and being broken at the minute, so that's very exciting.
That must be special, just when you see that from the blank canvas that it is, and just that it's a baby as well.
Well, and I bought in Tattersalls, in across from Ferry House. I bought in Goffs, and I bought in Newmarket. And last week I was just having a look at they're all riding now. They're with me 3-4 weeks, and now they're all riding, and they're totally different horses that you see at the sales, and it's what way they react to the saddle, and the different kind of temperament come out on them.
It's a challenge as well. To say, if your grade one, your Group 1 winner is Faisalana, who's by Aussie rules, so that's what you're at. Your Aussie rules would have very few Group 1 winners, but that's you have to challenge yourself to make the best, like the manager who doesn't have a massive checkbook, and that's what makes it more exciting in a way, because I guess it's like TG Carr Curragh produce great programs. A lot of the time they produce great programs because they have to be very specific because they don't have the money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, look at you, you know, and you're buying horses with a specific target. So, like, when I started out, I'd buy horses with little flaws in them.
With flaws?
With flaws.
Because you could afford them.
Yeah, and they might have a good pedigree. But those flaws then would actually stop you getting the proper money if you do win a race, because the flaws are still there. So then I said, no, let's buy the one, you know, the one that we can afford, that if he does win a race, we'll get the lotto.
Slightly less flashy pedigree then? Or?
Slightly less flashy pedigree, or a new pedigree.
Yeah, that you could take a chance on.
Yeah, take a chance on. Like a one filly there I bought this year, last year was Olympic Glory filly, who's a new stallion. He's a very fast horse, 5 furlong horse, but his first progeny were only raced in 2018.
Right.
And I bought it out of a mare who was an unraced mare, but she was well related. So it was very risky. And she finished second to Fairyland in Naas, and she finished second in the listed race in Tipperary, and she won in Listowel, and I sold her to America for a lot of money. Because when the agent came to buy her, she was perfect model.
Yeah.
Only she was a risky, I'd taken the risk buying her. But
you had to take the risk because that's what you can afford.
Well, that's all I could afford, yeah.
Like
And
you had
there was a
great
bunch of
success with Fast Company, and was it his first year or second year?
Yeah. I had and two filly and Devonshire
and
was
Downforce,
and
yeah.
Downforce,
Yeah.
and Downforce actually he's running Saturday week in Doncaster in a listed race, and I hope to God it rains, because the way the weather's been now, it's been too firm for him, and he's fit. He's actually, you talk about conformation, he's actually feet like flippers.
Right.
He's the most unusual feet. They're actually, I'd say, an inch probably wider than most horses' feet, and I just don't think he physically goes down into the ground on soft ground as other horses does. You know, I think he's able to skip along the ground when other horses...
It's just something like, this is a slightly tangent, but an awful lot of trainers this year have been completely screwed by the weather, like so screwed, like, and owners who've basically had no opportunity to run a horse yet, they're paying the money week in, week out, and you were probably one of those trainers that was maybe more disadvantaged than others were, because of just... I saw a horse run the other day that's run on heavy ground 5 times, I think, this season, and I couldn't figure out how in the name of God they'd managed that inside York, because I said, I barely remember it being heavy for 1 week.
Yeah, no, look, it's been a wonderful summer, a wonderful year. What can we do about it? You know what I mean? The season's over now, and we're looking at good ground in Naas on going to be the 4th or 5th of November.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you'd have meetings called off this time of the year, but there's none of that. Like last week we were racing in Thurles because there's been 2 abandoned National Hunt meetings, and it's great to see flat racing in Thurles. We've lost, you know, we were losing too many tracks to National Hunt. The people are saying people aren't going to see flat racing. I was at a few National Hunt meetings and there's no one there either, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we really have to, and I think HRI have to step up to the plate and do a lot more advertising about horse racing. I mean, we're way down the list on RT News, say on an average day, and on the TV. You know,
That's just where we're at, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but why are we at? We have enough money invested in horse racing that we can do a bit of advertising.
We're still a peripheral sport.
I know, but we're not money wise in Ireland. Like, I mean, what income? Soccer doesn't bring in the income the horse racing does.
Not even close.
No,
yeah.
You know, Gaelic sports probably does, but that's only, you know, because every single parish plays it, you know.
Yeah.
And like people have a great affinity with horses in Ireland. Like I'd say everyone has some bit of horsemanship in them.
I think it's the type of thing that the industry has got much better in recent years at telling their stories and revealing the characters and opening up the language around, because it's a little bit tricky to get your head around some of the things that are happening if you're casual enough.
Yeah, even this, we're not trying to promote propaganda for racing. We're trying to explain stuff that people don't realise about it, like what Willie's saying there, like, you know, and every week we're just trying to produce people who have a different story to tell, and that may not actually have to do with the horse running in a race, because there's an awful lot more to it than that. And that's what always fascinates me, is the character of the horse, because they've unbelievably different characteristics themselves, and if once you actually are around them, it's really compelling, like, and I think that's what we have to sell, like how beautiful the animals are mentally and physically, and how different they are, you know, because everyone's different to the next one, like.
Yeah, I think the stories are also amazing. Like, you know, the stuff today about the quality of the land being important in terms of the quality of the horse that they output, it makes perfect sense when you explain it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, it's completely obvious, but like having somebody who's actually lived it And telling that story.
And like you're talking about the Curragh, like, I mean, I have probably 14 lads working for me. Do you know what I mean? If I didn't start, I wouldn't be employing 14 there.
And even more in rural Ireland, Carlow and places like it's in a yard is huge.
Yeah, like look at Willie Mullins' yard, and you know what's that's given. What's Joseph O'Brien's yard is given in the hill in Piltown.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's over 100 people down there. You know what I mean? All in our industry, and like I mean, you know, there's a terrible lot of negative publicity, I suppose, in our race because people think it's an elitist sport because they see, you know, the big the guys flying in the helicopters. But like the Irish National Stud, for example, they're starting up a new racing club.
Yeah.
It's 399 quid to get into it
for the year.
Yeah. There's 6 horses in it. I've one of the horses, Little Promise. She won a 5-4 enlisted race. I'd hope to get her to Royal Ascot next year.
For 400 quid, you can get involved in that racing club and
with the national stud as well. Like.
Yeah.
And maybe have a day out in Ascot next year.
Yeah, and there's 6 horses involved. Michael O'Callaghan has one as well. She won the same week in Navan. You know, and there's Thunder and Roses, I think, gone into it, National Hunt horse that they bought to put into it. That'll be retired, the National Stud, and you know, it's a great initiative. You know.
Yeah. And the National Stud, in fairness to visit it, is well worth it. And it might be elitist, but this year we'd, you know, Jessica Harrington winning the Classic. We had Ken Condon win the Classic, and we had Patrick Prendergast winning Group 1 on Champions Weekend. And I think that's great. I think that really people warm to them stories as well. And you know, even when Skitter Scatter won the Moigler, I was talking to a Georgian guy who'd come all the way over from Georgia via John Goslin's to work, and he looks after her every day, and it was like as if he'd won the lotto, and that was just a horse that he looks after at home winning a Group 1. He was overcome with emotion, and they're the stories, you know, you like to tell. Yeah, from Georgia.
He worked with me for a while, a great lad. And he makes tack, and he's just totally into horses, loves horses.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I just couldn't believe how he got from Georgia to Kildare, you know. But they're the stories that I'd like to hear anyway.
Yeah, no, it's class. So you're obviously not just a trainer, you obviously have horses and you're involved in that aspect of it as well. Could you just be a trainer, do you think, or would that have been sustainable for you? Did you need the other parts of the business to make it work?
Oh, you do, yeah. I mean, it's very hard to make it as a trainer unless you're buying and selling horses at my level.
It seems impossible, really.
Yeah.
Like
you have to buy and sell and you know, turn horses over, to be honest, and that's why our trainers stay static, because they're selling their better horses and someone else can afford them and improve them, and you've probably sold a potential group horse out of your yard, but you have to take the dollars.
Yeah, and it's so like football, like Wimbledon back in the day. They get a good player, they sell it, like, and that's just to keep going. And it must be bittersweet, because it's like, I'm after landing on one here, but unfortunately, no, you're better off having it than not having it.
Yeah. No. Look at it. I mean, you know, you want to see it go on, because then people will say, well, he raised it and he didn't kill it. Do you know what I mean? He you know, someone else is able to improve it, so he didn't get to bottom it out as a 2-year-old. So they'd come back to you and you'd be more of a chance of selling more horses. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing worse than all your horses going out of the yard and nothing wins, because then they'll say,
you slog them, like.
Yeah. You know.
And it doesn't sound like you're going training any national hunt horses soon.
I'll have 2 or 3 this year.
Okay,
2 or 3. Just
juveniles are.
One, they're all kind of slow, flat horses.
Yeah. I hope you're not trying to sell them, yeah?
No, actually, no. They'll work. They'll do a job now.
They're actually national hunt or 3-year-old hurdlers.
There's 1 3-year-old hurdlers, and the other 2 or 3-year-olds that'll run in 4-year-old bumpers next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that horse who won the point that.
I honestly.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Probably won a maiden hurdle or something like that. Barry Cash used to ride.
Yeah, and he won a 47.65 at a critical time too. And he won a maiden hurdle for Barry, and then he won a point and was second in novice chase.
Is it harder, the jump straight?
Look, I'd say you can do a lot better on the flat and scattered around. I think the national hunt has gone very. You know, there's 2 or 3 trainers, and like certainly the smaller trainers, if you have a good horse, it's bought off you straight away. So they can never keep competing, because there's so much money coming in for their horses, so they have to sell them. That's
the ironic shift in Irish racing, that flat racing has somewhat become more egalitarian. I think it's because we've Dundalk as well, and there is more of an opportunity, and it's really hard for jumps trainers to compete. And you see jumps trainers actually gradually shifting towards training flat horses now, even with the Mullins name. Yeah. You know, and it's wow.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, there's a lot of good flat trainers. I think like if you win a race here in Ireland as a flat trainer, the world is your oyster with that horse, because our standard of racing here
It's so
is
good.
so high. I mean, like you go now the Breeders' Cup the weekend and look at the many races Aidan O'Brien would competing, at the top level, top tier. So he's the top trainer in the world. He broke the world record last year.
In the Melbourne Cup, Willie and Joseph O'Brien having the 1-2 in it, it's.
Yeah.
I know it's only a handicap, but it's Aussie racing, and that's the one thing I'll always say about Irish racing. We're world leaders in this, and we're world leaders in bugger all.
And our jockeys, we produce wonderful jockeys that, most of the English jockeys are all Irish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Irish lads down in Australia, jockeys, a lot of lads in America
as well. Yeah.
We do produce great horsemen in Ireland. So I think it's in our blood to be certain.
Yeah, no, this has been great. We've got to talk about some other stuff though. Johnny's going to try and win us some money this week. With thanks to the tote.com, I'll start that one again. With thanks to the tote.com, we have two €100 charity bets. One's going to be for the Breeders' Cup on either the Friday or Saturday night, and the others are usual €100 bets. Any winnings from our tote bets will go directly to the Irish injured jockeys. Aidan Bob did some business for us last week.
They won. What more do you want?
Oh, there you go. What odds?
I think it was around even money. It actually ran the last few hours and was beaten, so you should be thankful for small mercies.
There you go. Okay, so we're up to €965 now for the Injured Jockeys Fund. Bet one is Newspaper of Record.
Yeah, I got to give mention to Gary Carroll as well, who actually ran the marathon for the Injured Jockeys and then had 5 or 6 rides in Galway the following day.
And did a pound overweight. Overweight. Work that one out. I asked him, how did you do a pound overweight? And you had to run in, and he did it in
3:40, I think.
3:40. So I think
fast.
he stopped and had a snack on the way as well.
I can't make sense of that either. But he said he was grand on the horse. Was just when he got off the horse, walking out with the parade, and oh god, he said next year I'm going to probably take the day off. I run it.
And Mick Mulvaney gave him stick for putting a pound overweight. Now Mick Mulvaney can't give him any stick for putting a pound overweight. If anyone knows Mick Mulvaney.
In any event, Newspaper of Record in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. I don't know if you know Chad Brown.
Yeah, he's leading trainer in America, and he's certainly a top class lawn trainer to call him over there.
The lawn trainer.
A lawn trainer, which is a grass trainer.
Yeah.
He's for some reason he bought that filly minted off me.
Oh, you've actually yeah.
Yeah. So he's just
young as well. He's not old.
No. He's I think he's only 40.
He's won this 3 of the last 4 years, and this I don't think she's by Loop to Vega, so I don't think she'll mind the bit of rain, which obviously is on the way. And the second bet is running in Ireland, Sancta Simone at Down Royal on the Friday. I hope that's not too early for our listeners. If it is, we can obviously give something on the Saturday. It's just we're not 100% sure of the declarations at the moment.
Yeah.
Because of the Jigginstown have so many...
That race happened a couple of hours ago, Johnny.
Yeah, well, in that event, I'm sure it has been beaten. But Jigginstown have a load of runners in the big race on Saturday, but at the moment it's kind of hard to know what they'll actually run. But that certainly Newspaper Record will run.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll stick with Newspaper Record.
Yeah.
7-4 favourite at the moment, but obviously you'll get the prices on the tote.com. Keep an eye on the tote.com or the Tote social media to see what the payout's going to be on our selections, and we'll tweet another if you want.
Willie has runners in Dundalk on the Friday night as well, one of whom...
6:30.
Yeah.
That's before your thing as well, isn't it?
No, we're so in the afternoon. This'll teach people to get to us.
Yeah, 6:30
Facebook.
Peshkova. She just won on Wednesday, but I think she's headed a handicapper.
Okay.
And she's running in a 47.65. I think she's now rated 69. So
very Jim Bulger-esque of you, run her straight away again.
Yeah, I think just before it's the end of the year.
Yeah.
I can apologise to her all winter.
What's 47.65?
That's a rating ban.
Okay.
And
Now
she's anomalously not actually in that bracket, but she gets in because when at entry stage she was eligible for the race, but now she's gone above it. But that happened after she was entering the race.
So it's fair enough you get to stay in.
And you have another runner as well, haven't you?
I have another runner, Black Martini, but I don't think she'll beat Aidan O'Brien's captain of the fleet.
Yeah.
I think he'd be very hard to beat. But she's a nice, sharp little filly, and she's drawn nicely.
Fan of the Black Martinis?
Never had one.
Yeah, Black Russian.
A few Black Russians, all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Espresso Martini that's well worth a go now. I know you're having a few later.
Yeah.
Get them on the free roll.
Tell me other races that we should be talking about this weekend at the Breeders' Cup in particular.
Yeah, so obviously we've the classic in which Aidan is going back to try to win a dirt race with Mendelssohn. I'm not sure the ground is going to suit, because he ran on the slop in the Kentucky Derby and he really looked like he was all at sea. Now, that race was nuts. He got barged out of the stalls, and it's probably his most ambitious project this season is to win the Classic with him. I think it'd be asking a lot. He hasn't had much luck in the race, obviously, with it being on dirt. And Enable is obviously running in the...
Classic is the Americans. It's in America on their dirt surface, and it's never European has never won it. But we were very unlucky with this way.
Toast New York, is it? Or?
Toast New York.
Yeah, that's right.
Was very, very unlucky 2 or 3 years ago. I think he should have won it.
Yeah, he was touched off.
He was very, very unlucky.
Jamie Osborne. You need a horse more or less who's American bred, which he is by Scat Daddy. But you know, I was in America actually for the Kentucky Derby, and even that race, everyone is watching it, and this will be similar. But a lot has to go right. But obviously, the turf horses would have reasonable chances. He has about a team of 14 over there, and it's well worth watching. I remember. It's
early, actually. It's not too bad this year.
Yeah.
It's in Churchill. It's not too bad.
Have you had a runner?
I ran Fisalana in Santa Anita, and I thought it was the Carlsberg of racing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fantastic place. Yeah.
Why?
Just because the way the facilities in Santa Anita were unbelievable.
Where is Santa Anita?
California.
Okay.
And where's the city you fly into?
I'm not sure actually. Yeah.
Japers. But like you wake up in the morning and the mountains are set in the background.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing
to look at.
Yeah,
and then we have Sam Crow returning at Down Royal obviously on Friday, which will obviously be earlier on. But then we have Down Royal's big meeting on the Saturday. As I say, the main race to J and Wine is just a question of Jigginstown it's kind of races like this where there are 14 entered and Jigginstown have more than half of them, that it kind of shows you the stranglehold that certain, I suppose, owners and connections have. But if Balco de Flo runs, I imagine he will take the beating. And it's a great place to go racing Down Royal as well if you could get up there on the Saturday.
I recognise all the names from the racing at Down Royal on Saturday, so some of them are ex-Cheltenham, some of them are looking towards Cheltenham, some of them...
Yeah, Shattered Love could be coming back. Obviously, Mona Lee, these are horses who ran blinders last year in novice company, and the Storyteller, ditto, and that's only the Grade 2 second season novice race. So it's a cracking racetrack. I know the future of the racetrack's been put up in the air, which is really, I think it's one of the most indispensable racetracks in the country because it's very near Belfast, and they always get crowds up there, and it's actually a very good track as well. Like probably a better jumps track. The flat track is very sharp, but it's a great atmosphere up there. The two Northern Irish tracks do a great job in terms of attracting people racing, and it'd be an absolute tragedy if Down Royal went away. So I do hope that gets sorted as well.
And they have a great 5 furlong track there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very specialist 5 furlong. The 2 mile starts in front of the stand.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's a wonderful, wonderful track, and you're desperate to lose it, you know?
Are you mad into sprints? Did you just make the decision that like the Man United of Ireland is going...
No, I'm just saying because we have very few 5 furlong sprint tracks in Ireland.
Yeah.
But Down Royal are one of them. There's only Down Royal Navan, Cork, Bellewstown and the Curragh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the rest of them don't have 5 furlong tracks.
So there are no 5 furlong races.
No, and it's a kinky little track to win on because you have to have a horse who's, there's a sharp end on it. They run off the bend, they lose the race. It's a very specialist little track where horses might win in the Curragh, they wouldn't win in Down Royal. It's downhill, it can be very, very fast.
Do you train sprinters much different to, say, 7 furlong horse?
Look, at sprinters get themselves fit. They're like they're the Usain Bolt of they carry a lot more condition. You just have to keep them happy, and the more problems you'll have with sprinters is carrying the weight. Do they get injuries through carrying weight more so than anything? Whereas the distance horses are like the distance runners. They carry no weight and they're lighter. They're easier to keep sound. You know.
If we gave you a blank piece of paper and said fix the issues that you were talking about earlier, what would you do most?
Well, I'd try seriously hard to get more people racing. I think I'd love to see more people racing. Whether we go around to schools or go around, I don't know how, but we have to get more people racing. And
it's a massive challenge.
That's our future land because it's not. I love racing. I love competing. We have a great camaraderie amongst trainers. We all love each other but hate each other because we're all trying to beat each other.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. The jockeys, as you know, they all get on, they all compete. But we just same face as racing. You know, it's exciting when you go racing and there's a full, when you go to Leopardstown
It makes
on the
a huge
Curragh
difference.
Champions Weekend and the place is full.
And what makes it harder as well is with smartphones now, our attention span is worse than ever.
Yes.
And to have a 30-35 minute gap between races where there's not a lot going on, it's going to make that challenge ever harder with TV coverage and all that. But we have to be inventive in terms of making it making it incentive to go there. And I've actually spoken to somebody in HRI about a possible idea about making it appealing in terms of information that you get only if you go racing. And I know HRI is working on it, because I couldn't agree more with Willie. I still enjoy going racing. I maybe don't go as much as I should, but I know the amount of people I know who are hardcore gamblers who don't go racing, and that's what I can't get my head around, and we need to change that.
You're missing out on the enjoyable bit.
Yeah, well,
and ownership as well. Like ownership, to be able to be just the crack of owning a horse with your mates and to go racing then, and to be in that parade ring with Eddie O'Leary, Michael O'Leary, or even you might even be in there with JP McManus or even the Magners someday, because you're
that
there.
racing club idea is the type of thing that makes that accessible.
And there is a current racing club, and this is another part of it, that there was 50 guys involved in that racing club this year, and they'd be all racing. And they'd be racing, like, I mean, Michael O'Callaghan's filly raced all over the country because she's a handicapper, whereas my filly was kind of in the cosmopolitan tracks, was like the Fairy House, Nace, where else she raced? Navan, and she raced in Newbury, and the Curragh. But like, I mean, they get to go, like, if you have a handicapper in Ireland, you get to see the whole of Ireland.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
which is great.
And like, I love going to Sligo. Like, Sligo is a wonderful track, and certain horses only win there. We have a great variety of tracks here. That it's not like America.
That's the one thing.
Every America, they all race left-handed. Every track, the dirt track, is a mile from start, one round to finish.
That, so it's all exactly the same.
It's all exactly the same.
Like
Boring, isn't it?
Downpatrick and Navan couldn't be less similar.
And every track in Ireland is totally different. Where do you call it? Over in the very west there, Ballinrobe. A horse to win in Ballinrobe won't win anywhere else, because the stable yard is behind the winning post.
Yeah.
So they'll gallop back to the winning post. Do you know what I mean? Gorn, the stable yard is before the winning post, so you'll see a lot of horses jib.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all this kind of characteristics you need to know in your horse, where you're going to place them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's wonderful. Like, Irish racing is the best in the world.
Well, I think that, like, having conversations about that level of strategy is the stuff that interests people, that gets people kind of going, ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What's more likely, you to win a classic or Kildare to win All Ireland in your lifetime?
Me to win a classic? I can't trust 15. Well, look at look at our underage development, and our underage teams are doing very well.
There's hope, Ger.
Yeah. Would you get involved again? You were a selector for a year?
I was selected for a year, but I wasn't training then. Like, I mean, you can't, if you're not going to commit to a team 200%, you can't go half-arse.
So when you finish training, when you retire, you might go back.
Yeah, in a Zimmer. No, it's totally different. My nephew told me I don't have a clue about football. It's totally different football now, so don't be talking about it. So.
You're getting old. Game has passed you by.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Johnny, you did okay. You're the only guy man we'd allow in the studio for this.
Exactly.
Really, thanks very much. It was great.
Pleasure.
That's Friday Night Racing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you missed any of it, you can get it all back on youtube.com/off the ball. And stay tuned to our social accounts and to the Tote as well. Their social. We'll tweet out the details of our second bet as well. Thanks a million.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off. Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.